What's up, guys? We are back once again today to talk about another anime that I just watched. And today we are talking about a show called Dungeon People. And let me just start this off by saying I really enjoyed this show. I thought it was a super refreshing watch. And the premise of Dungeon People is actually very interesting in my opinion, at least. Basically, the main character and a lot of people have been going to dungeons for a long time. And the dungeons inside this show are pretty much just like normal anime dungeons with monsters, traps, different floors, boss monsters, stuff like that. That's basically all they are, is just dungeons, the usual dungeons that you know from every anime. But in this show, the main character actually ends up meeting someone who's like in control of the dungeon. So you pretty much just learn all of the inner works of like how the boss of the dungeon or the administrator of the dungeon like controls everything, like sets up the traps, gets monsters into the dungeon, how they build the dungeon, and even all the personalities of like all the monsters and stuff and how they get their weapons. You basically just learn all of the inner works of a dungeon, and you just get to see a very unique side of things that you don't usually get to see, and I think it's super cool. And though I really did enjoy this show, I went into it a little bit skeptical because the rating on Mal is a 7.11, which is like just below what I think a good show would be. So it's like in the range of like a decent show. So I was like a little bit afraid, but I was actually pleasantly surprised by the amount of charm that this anime had, because in the anime landscape where I feel like a lot of the good shows are trying to get better and better in animation and art and everything like that, and trying to just improve overall by testing the boundaries, it is just so nice to see a show that looks like it's sticking to what it knows best and perfecting that craft. I'll start by talking about the art style of this show. It was just so wholesome, so like friendly. It's a very cute art style where it almost looks like 90% of the characters are pretty much made to be like chibi, except not exactly. I think it's more so that the characters actually just have a very, very simple design. Like there's nothing really complex or like crazy going on or like unique. They all just have a very simple, cute, just friendly design that feels so nice to look at. And I also feel like they really got the characters' personalities to like match this sort of energy and style that they got going on with this show. So the personality of the characters and the art just like meshed together to make such an enjoyable experience. Another thing I do want to mention is that there were golems in this show, and they might have been the best thing I've ever seen in almost any anime. They were so cool in every single situation they were in. They were stealing the spotlight every time, and I absolutely loved it. And another very interesting thing about the way they did this show was that there was like a lot of talking and explaining things, so it almost felt more like I was listening to a book or like watching a book rather than an actual like anime. And since there's so many just like little complex details and stuff going on in this show, it feels like I'm just learning. So instead of like going in there watching 20 minutes of an anime or something, I'm sitting there for 20 minutes learning about all this cool stuff that's going on like in the show here. And I can definitely see why some people wouldn't like it, because there's like a lot of information and they talk a lot about stuff. Though it didn't really bother me because it was just such a refreshing change from what I usually watch. It was just a very relaxing experience, to be honest. But I think it was still super entertaining, a very cool concept, and I absolutely couldn't get enough of it. Every episode pretty much flew by, and I could not wait to start the next one, because almost the entire time watching it, it felt like there was still stuff that you didn't know, stuff that you had questions for that didn't have answers, and you had to get to the bottom of those answers. And even now, after I'm finished the show, I still have questions that aren't answered. So I really hope they come out with a second season or something, because whether it's about like the storyline, the world building, the characters themselves, it still feels like there's so many things that they haven't told in the anime, or at least things that they haven't really explored as of right now. And the main thing I'm interested in personally is more information about the characters. I feel like in the first season we didn't get enough about like the few main characters that we have, because for some characters their backstory as of right now is just like widely unexplored, so I don't really know much about them. And it would just be so much easier if like the characters were open about things to each other, because I don't think they're like hiding things from each other, but they're just like not telling each other about like very like interesting things about themselves. Because even sometimes when one character will be thinking like, oh, maybe I should ask this really important question, nah, I won't ask it, it's probably not important. What do you mean it's not important, dude? It's exactly what I want to know. And they just like think about it, hint at it a tiny bit, and then cliffhanger you and never talk about it again. It's so brutal, dude. Like they should just tell me all these secret plot points or like these things that they're hiding about the characters, because I feel like I'm so close to like understanding so many things, yet so far, because I just don't have enough information to understand it. And that's something honestly that is like a little bit annoying about this show, is that like in at least a handful of times they'll like hint at something and then not talk about it ever again, or like hint at something earlier and then come back to it like 5-10 episodes later. It's just very interesting the way they do that, and I'm not really a fan because I kind of want to know like at the moment that they hint at it. And the main questions honestly that I want to know about the characters is so basic. It's just like the who, what, when, where, and why of all the characters being there and like who they are and stuff like that. And I feel like it really does suck that it's over, because it was just such a unique show to watch because it really did feel like I was like just learning so many things. And I still have so many things that I do want to learn about this world and about this show, but I can't because it's over. So I really hope that they do start announcing a second season ASAP. I want it to come out immediately so I can keep watching. And of course, when the second season comes out, I will absolutely be rewatching the season with it as well. And there was absolutely like a couple scenes that I didn't like very much. But my main complaints would honestly be that I didn't get to learn as much as I wanted about the show and all the characters and stuff like that. And it kind of feels like some of the characters are still like hiding some things that I do want to know. And honestly, even though there was like a lot of talking, I didn't get tired of it at all. It was a very enjoyable show. A very nice change of pace. And if I were to give a bullet point list of the things I didn't like about this show, it would be like, there was one scene where they talked about goblins I didn't like very much. I didn't like that I didn't get enough information. There's still a lot of information I want to know, and the show is over. And they made the main character very like dense and maybe a little bit dumb, and it was a bit egregious to the point where they had to like dumb down almost every single explanation to the main character so they would like understand it. And honestly, I don't really know why they did that. I think that's just kind of like wasted potential, but it's also part of their character, so I guess it's alright. And the things I like would of course probably be the cute wholesome art style that had like a really nice charm to it, all of the characters having a very fun unique personality, and overall just how lovable everything in the show was. I found it amazing. And for my rating, honestly, I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10. This was a very fun one for me. But I can also see why some people wouldn't enjoy it, so I definitely recommend checking it out for yourself and making your own opinion. But I think that covers everything, so yeah, that's going to be about it. See ya.